All to the very first live Coffee and a Good Vibe podcast experience. I am so grateful for each and every one of you here, and for me, this has always been so much more than a podcast. My whole vision behind the podcast is to do things just like this, where I could bring together so many abundant, amazing human beings in a room together, because I truly believe that that's where the magic happens. That's where the connection is, the growth is. And if I can foster a space like this tonight, it's my pure intention that tonight you leave making a new friend, a new connection. I just want everyone here, if you haven't, meet someone new, connect with them, because that's why I'm doing this. And if you leave with a new friend or business connection, whatever it is, then this was all worth every effort, every little thing I did to put this on. So thank you all for coming. Oh, I love you guys. No, literally, it means so much. So before we kick it off, in typical podcast fashion, we have some really proud sponsors, and I'm so grateful to have Same Day Health here. They have put together an amazing brand activation, which I'll let G come up here and share with you guys.
Hi guys, I'm G. I'm with Same Day Health. First off, we want to thank Aisha for this wonderful event. We're so excited to sponsor such a powerful group of female entrepreneurs. If you don't know about Same Day Health, we started a year ago as a COVID testing company because we didn't see accessible and fast COVID testing. But now we've transitioned into a health and wellness company with IV injections, IV drip therapy, vitamin injections, retail, as well as health panels such as STD testing, blood testing, and we also do virtual care as well for mental therapy and urgent care. Now we have grown with 40 locations across the US, and we have house calls in select cities such as New York, LA, and Boston, and the DMV area. Today, please come visit our activation room. We're giving out vitamin injections for everyone, as well as providing complimentary house call discount codes. All right, thank you.
And they have all the Air One treats in there. You guys gotta grab them. They're so good. They're amazing. And also, I just want to say, Lauren, the general manager, if you guys didn't catch it, she's giving everyone here a free SOHO Works co-working pass. So make sure you get one of those cards or connect with Lauren on your way out. And another housekeeping note, all parking, you can get it validated for $11. So make sure you also do that. So before we kick off this podcast, this live podcast, I just want to take some time to dedicate this episode and this whole event to someone who is my why behind why I'm doing this, and he's my best friend, and he's my dad. A couple months ago, my family got the news that my dad was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and kind of threw our lives for a curveball overnight. And since then, he's been fighting it. He's been more positive than ever, going through chemo and radiation treatment. And I never talk about this kind of stuff because I'm just always the positive person who's I pride myself in being positive, and it comes from him. And going through this, honestly, has ignited me more than ever to just keep showing up my best self, because when life throws you any kind of curveball, it really tests you. And I just want to just dedicate this all to him because he's the biggest fan of this podcast. He listens to every episode. He comes on every Instagram post. He literally is obsessed with it. And he would be here in the front row with my mom, who flew from Canada. And because he can't be here, we're doing a video. So it's going to be just like he's here watching it from the living room. And I just want to say that, Dad, this episode is for you, and you're going to kick cancer's ass. And just all you And on that note, don't cry, she's crying. On that note, I want to welcome my incredible panel of female entrepreneurs. These are all such incredible founders in the CPG space. They're all amazing with their businesses and brands they have built. So I'm going to welcome all these lovely ladies to the stage. And also, at any point in time, if you guys are sharing on social, I have all their handles and their companies, because branding is so important. Those tags are so important. So we have them there if you guys do feel called at any time to share, because we would all appreciate it. So ladies, come on. No, no. Unless you guys want to sit together, you and guys. Yeah, sure.
Does that mean I'm speaking first, though?
Maybe. And then you guys, just share that one because that one transfers. This one doesn't go that far. Amazing. So in typical coffee and a good vibe fashion, I'm going to get each of my female founders to give a little background on you and your brand and just intro yourself to the group.
I guess this seat makes me go first. Hi, everyone. I am Danielle Gronich. I am the acne guru and the CEO and co-founder of Clearstem Skincare. It's a line that is non-toxic, and all the formulas are anti-aging and anti-acne at the same time, which hasn't been done before. And this is my amazing co-founder, Kayleigh.
I've already been introduced, so I think I'm good. My name is Kayleigh. I'm the other co-founder at Clearstem.
Hi, I'm Tiana. I've spent the last 7 years very deeply integrated in the influencer marketing space. Previously had an agency and influencer marketplace. It was a shoppable storefront. Most recently, I spent the last 3 years working on building CPG brands for celebrities and influencers. And I am now embarking on working on a new startup with Casey, somewhere out in the audience, called Suckerz. That is a new better for you brand in the hard candy space.
Okay, y'all can share. Hi, I'm Sabeena. I'm the founder of Deux, or Deux, depending on how bougie you are. We're a functional cookie dough brand, actually just launched into a healthy Nutella, so I would say functional snacking brand. And we believe good for you should taste good. So I launched it last year during the pandemic, concepted it in May and June, launched it in October. And then prior to that, I was in venture capital. So I launched a venture studio with M13, which is a consumer and consumer tech VC here in LA. It's called Launchpad, and we launched 3 companies at Launchpad. And then prior to that, I had more boring corporate jobs. So I was at McKinsey and I was at PepsiCo and Diamond Foods. So squarely in the CPG space.
Well, hi, my name is Sanne and I'm one of the co-founders of Nekohama. We are a wellness company focused on our first product, matcha. We wanted to find a coffee alternative and, source of green energy.
Oh, I love it. Amazing. So we're going to just kick it off. Each founder, I feel you guys are all so exceptional in different areas, and I wanted to make this super tactical. So I'm going to address each co-founder, founder on specific areas of scaling and building brands. So I want to kick it off with Clearstem. You guys are in an industry like skincare and brands. There's always so many new brands that come onto the scene, and they always say there's so much saturation, but I think saturation is a great thing. And you guys being such a new brand, 2 years with the growth that you've had, I would love to start off with hearing what best practices and things that you guys have implemented to have the growth that you guys have had in the 2 years with Clearstem.
I'll kick it off, and then I really want to hand it to Danielle because our balance is pretty phenomenal. She's the formulation and science behind everything, and I'm more on the social and community building side of things. So like Danielle mentioned, Clearstem is anti-acne, anti-aging, and non-toxic. So we really combined 2 industries and also did it in the clean beauty space, which has never been done before. But what really makes it unique is the formulation behind everything, because you have acne products that typically dry out your skin and age your skin, so accelerate aging. And then you have a lot of anti-aging products that cause acne because of the pore clogging ingredients. And then you have toxic skincare that has hormone disruptors and is linked to a lot of other internal body issues. And so we decided to combine them all, do it in a very clean way. But Danielle is the science and brains behind the ingredients we do in order to be able to do it that way. So I will pass it along to her.
Thank you. So skincare is super saturated, but what's missing, I feel, across the board is the education for the consumer, because packaging is very pretty. Something can smell good and feel good, but if it doesn't create change in your skin and you don't know how to use it, you're going to be looking for something else. So I think the thing that sets us apart is our education, for sure. Every time we do an interview or people ask us questions, we always tell them practical tips like don't wash your face with hot water because you're ruining your skin, or check your makeup and your sunscreen for pore clogging ingredients. So we always start with education first. and deliver value that way. And that is what creates a meaningful connection with our our customers. And having all of the communication in our packaging is really important, and that's something we put a lot of intention with. So I think that's huge.
I love that. I have to move it over. I think it's a perfect segue to Tiana, brand building queen, with your Rolodex of brands that you have helped scaled. Sama T, we all love Jay Shetty and Roddy. So I would love to hear from you with your Rolodex and your experience. What are some of the best practices that you guys have implemented that you're going to move forward with other brands that you work with, and Suckerz?
So in the case of, like Aisha said, I just helped launch Jay and Roddy Shetty's tea brand, which is called Sama Tea. It actually just launched last week, so check it out. It's delicious. In the case of Sama and Suckerz as well, those brands are really unique because both markets are extremely ripe for disruption. If you look at the tea space, like Lipton tea was started in the 1800s. All the other top tea brands follow, but, there has been innovation in almost a century in terms of, there's obviously brands that are launching similar products, but, what we took with Jay's brand is we looked for something that would be extremely authentic to him and Roddy, like something that, wasn't just putting a product behind a celebrity and putting their name on it. Something that was meaningful for them, that had a story behind it. And then we, deeply ingrained their values in terms of like infusing them with adaptogenics, making sure they were organic and, gluten-free, and had all the qualifiers that they were looking for. Really like looked on the shelves and saw that there was a lot of room for disruption in the tea space. And then same thing with Suckerz, like no one's innovated the Tootsie Pop. They've been around since the 1890s. Blow Pop has been around since the 1960s. And, there's a reason. Like most of these big companies, they're so big and so set in their ways that they don't know how to move quickly to what the market wants. And I think like as a startup, you can obviously understand what people want and what they need. In this case, it's better for you, low sugar. And we're hoping to set out and provide that for them.
I love that. And you definitely are with everything you guys are doing. And you guys have Suckerz in the back there for display only.
Display
so
only. We're going to be launching in early 2022. But yeah, it will be the first, like, I'm sure you if you go to like an Erewhon or a Whole Foods, you'll see a flat pop at the very least that has low sugar. There's no bigger like pop that's actually fun from an experiential standpoint. That has a low sugar count. Most of them are at least like 17 grams of sugar, which is crazy. And there's a reason. Like they're extremely hard to make. Casey and I have probably went out to 150 manufacturers. It's a new process. It's changing people's mindsets. It's not easy, but it's worth it because we know there's a market need for it. So hopefully we can fulfill that demand.
You definitely will. That's exciting. So Sabeena, I got to bring it to you because the queen of funding, I know our conversation, you were talking about how you had such a fast and seamless fundraise, and that's a goal for so many founders and entrepreneurs in different stages. And I would love to hear from you a lot of things, like when's the best time to fundraise, the best practices for fundraising, because of your experience in that space. I feel like you can shed so much value for everyone here.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've gotten that exact question from a couple of folks raising CPG brands, usually better for you, great ideas, but all they have right now is a deck and, the concept, and they're going out and fundraising, $2 to $5 million. And, no shade to anyone who has done that, but I squarely believe in showing the traction before you go do that. It's a much easier hill to climb once you already have demand. You have stores asking for your product. You have, even a wait list, but you have, a sale. It's much easier to fundraise in that sense versus, going out with just a concept. So that's kind of like the first piece of advice. So when we fundraised, we were actually already 6 months in. So we had bootstrapped it. We put in $20K in the business in October. And even prior to that, we were doing drops on Instagram of limited quantity jars. And we started selling out of those. So that's when we were like, okay, we can invest in a D2C business. We can invest in a brand. That was like step one. And then after, you know, the 20K of our own investment, we essentially got to a point where we were maxing out our commercial kitchens, and I was making product until 3 in the morning, and then waking up at 7 in the morning to fulfill, which I have like PTSD now. Anytime we have to fulfill anything ourselves, I'm like, oh my God, I can't tape another fucking box. So anyway, that's all to say, like, by the time I fundraised, we were at a $500,000 run rate in sales. And so that's a much easier story to tell and a much easier time to get a yes, than when you're, you know, when you don't have anything and you don't have any proof points and you just have a concept. So yeah. I would say
So many nuggets in there. Good thing this is a podcast. You can re-listen and re-listen to all that. So I feel like one of the things you said, which Sanne is the perfect person to go to next, is a proof of concept. And with Nekohama, not only, so Sanne has an insane personal brand with her YouTube channel, but even besides that, the Nekohama, you guys have started this CPG brand. It's a new brand, and you guys have scaled so much on the community side. Like, you have a loyal brand community. And I feel like for a CPG brand, it could be harder to do than a personal brand. So I would love to hear from you the best strategies that you guys have implemented within Nekohama and how that served, which ones are the best one for someone here listening.
Cool. Well, you really divided kind of like the personal brand and brand community, but I almost feel it's kind of the same thing. And the reason for that is because people nowadays are really trying to find deeper connection, and this is not only towards a person they follow, but also a brand they follow. They want to know the story, they want to know the founders, and they're not only part of the community to buy a product, but they're also part of the community to be part of a mission of a certain brand. So for us, my personal brand is all surrounded around like health and wellness and like a healthy lifestyle. And this kind of, I transitioned this to Nekohama, where our mission basically is to make the world a healthier place and to have people implement healthier choices in their life. And to really bring people in this journey and make them part of this mission is going to help with, with your brand awareness, because I think word of mouth is one of the most powerful tools. And those first members at the beginning of your community are going to tell their community members, they're going to tell the other community members, and yeah, this is how you grow, especially at the beginning if you don't have money or investment for marketing. Things that we did personally, we really try to bring people together. So when we have matcha, we have people come over just at home, or sometimes even when we're traveling on the go, we're like, hey, meet us up at this cafe, and really bring people together. We also have matcha Zooms. We call it the matcha tastings. We have our customers sign up. We meet with them. We take the time. We walk them through that process of making matcha, have them ask questions. And also, we ask them questions back too, like, hey, what do you think of this product? What do you think of this design? And in that sense, like, it also really helps us. And yeah, those are true community members till the end. They will support you forever. Yeah.
No, it's so true. I've seen you guys do those tastings in New York. You're like, we have a tasting at this time. How many tastings would you book? Ooh. Was it a lot of extra time you're investing in that element? Just for someone thinking.
It is, because we have like 4 co-founders, so that really helps. But I feel the weekends are pretty like packed. They're all like scheduled, and yeah, we have tastings. And even on our trip in Europe, which was a vacation, it's hard for us to take a vacation, but you know, we like in different countries, like we meet people, and I think at one point it's. I'm going to be honest, it's hard to scale at one point because, you know, as the company gets bigger. But I think what we were thinking about of bringing people together, let's say during these matcha tastings, is also connect the community members with each other. Because, at one point we have a certain amount of hours in a day. But we do want to try to do that as much as possible.
You guys do such a good job. And it's such a ripple from there because your audience is is cult-like. I remember when we did the podcast, just the amount of people who DM me after that podcast, when is it coming out? I think you grow that. It takes time to grow it, but it definitely pays off. And I kind of want to go into community more with Kayleigh and Danielle. With Clearstem, you guys have an insane affiliate and ambassador program, and I would love for you guys to share what that is if you're willing to, because I think a lot of brands want to dabble in on micro influencers or bigger influencers, but they don't have a budget necessarily. But you don't necessarily need that if you have a diehard community who loves your product and the people behind it.
So we knew from the start that we didn't have a lot of money to dump into influencer marketing. Any profit we made from Clearstem, we've just reinvested, and we haven't done any fundraising. And so we knew we couldn't go quantity. We couldn't just pay a bunch of people to be posting to see it everywhere. We knew we had to make an impact in people's skin and actually change people's skin. So of course we have our line that creates external change. And if it's an external problem with their skin, it's going to solve it. But if it's internal, like something caused from nutrition, digestion, gut health, something they're eating, like excess B12, is going to trigger acne. So in the very beginning stages, we would email back and forth with people. We've got on calls with people in the very beginning to help them get to the root cause of their acne. And we made an impact that way. And then we realized that's definitely not scalable. So then what can we do? So we created a course. It's called the Ditch Your Acne course. It's literally 8 hours of information, taking people through gut health, nutrition, digestion, everything to clear their skin from the inside and the outside. So that's how we started making a lot of impact in people's skin. And we would work with influencers directly, literally helping their skin. So we'd only work with influencers that struggled with different skin issues. We'd completely solve their skin issues, get rid of their acne, clear their complexion, and we'd work with them from there. Since then, we've built out a really successful, like you said, ambassador program where we don't ever pay influencers, but it is commission-based. So we give them a percentage to give off. They make a commission, and they honestly make really good money from that.
Yeah.
But that was our very first full-time hire was our director of partnerships to manage that, because it takes a lot of. It's like a family with our ambassadors, to be honest. They're involved in a lot of stuff with us. We get on one-on-one calls with them when needed. And so we are relationship building first, and we just want to create a positive impact in people's skin. And so that's always our number one thing with everyone we've worked with.
I love that. Would you say the course was kind of like the fruit to get them in to the program?
Yeah, so like, I mean, a lot of people we've worked with, we have gotten on personal calls with, but people that want more of the information, especially if they're an influencer within the skin space, they learn that information, and then they also have more information to give to their community. So it's not just giving them, a discount code for them to get commission back. That's great, but they're also getting more information if they are someone in the health and wellness space that wants to educate their own audience. We're now equipping them with even more information. I mean, we have one person that we've worked with that she was opening up her own skin clinic in Denver and literally flew out to shadow Danielle, her techniques, her teachings. We went through like the entire course with her, and now she's opening up her own clinic with a lot of our products in it. So
much relationship building.
Yes, yeah, but it makes the like long-term difference with people rather than short-term.
I love that. Moving it over to Tiana, you have a lot of experience with working with influencers in so many ways, events, influencer marketing. What would be some of the best practices for a brand out there who does have budget to pull into influencers? What would you say? They're like, T, we have so much money. What do we do with it? How do we use it effectively?
Love to hear that. So I'd say if you're a smaller to mid-sized brand who's testing out spending money with influencers for the first time, like the most important thing is like actually making sure that they, again, I use the word authentic all the time, but like with influencers, it's so important, like that they authentically love the product. Like if you're a brand and you're reaching out to an influencer, you're negotiating a rate, they've never even tried the product, you've never talked to them, I think that it can be like a huge recipe for disaster, because a lot of times one-off posts like that, they struggle to work when there's like, no relationship or story behind that. So what I always suggest to brands is like to truly build out a strategy and, make sure any influencer, if you're going to create an ambassador program that's paid, like I always suggest like multiple posts opposed to one-offs. Make sure they try the product, make sure that they like the product. If you can hop on a call or a Zoom with them and talk to them before you commit to that budget, it's always better because they'll feel more attached not only to the brand, but to the founders or to the head of marketing, whoever's doing that. And then like put some strategy and creativity into it. Like you don't, there should be certain variations of stories and posts, yes, but like if you can do really customized seeding approaches and with gifting influencers, that's great. If you can add events by, founder-led events, people love that. And then, the last point is just like, again, making sure that there's enough touch points. Like typically consumers won't convert until they've seen something at least 6 times. So again, why the one-offs are a little challenging is because it's sometimes not enough to make a difference. If you compile that with your paid strategy, with, all the other marketing efforts you have, it can be really successful.
I love that. I want to ask a little bit more into that. With micro influencers are really big right now. Are you seeing that trend too? Do you consult with clients to go bigger, or do you do a range?
It's all dependent on the client and what they're looking for. I'm a huge believer in a micro influencer approach and strategy. Again, like I just think the strategy is really important, and then it needs to work for both parties. So just having a program that's beneficial enough for them and for you. And usually with micro influencers, it's just about putting enough together where it is meaningful enough to move the needle. They're also great for content. Like content is so crucial to growing your brand. And if you have an army of great micro influencers who are also providing that as a service, it can be really valuable.
And what's your definition of micro influencer also? Just want to clear that one up.
I would say a micro influencer is like anyone under 75,000 followers. Like I think when I work with clients, it can be anywhere from like 5 to 75, 5 to 100. Everyone has a different definition. Like some people work with people with 3,000 followers. But yeah, again, like really like I think you guys do a great job of it, of like, you can actually end up turning your customers into, part of your ambassador programs as well. It can get that small, and those can be some of the most beneficial people to work with as well. So
totally. No, it's so true. Sanne, just because you also being a huge personal brand in the space, with a lot of brands reaching out to you probably to work with you, and especially in wellness, right? There's so many wellness brands. What for you on the influencer side makes you choose, okay, I'm going to work with this brand over this brand? And if you could be honest, like I'm sure you get offered a lot of money from a brand. Does that appeal to you? Are you like, okay, you know what? Because it's a lot of money, I'll try it out. Can money move the needle for an influencer if the product's not?
Money moves for a lot of influencers the needle, and that's the whole problem. And this is something what, from a brand perspective, you really need to like look forward to. This is the first question what I ask myself when a brand reaches out. Can I try the product? And sometimes they're even like, yeah, well, there's a deadline. We need to finish the campaign next month, or whatever. Like, we want to get the contract going. And I'm like, well, send the product first. And I'm sometimes even surprised how much of a problem that is, because they're so used to just getting the deal done before, like influencers. But yeah, the most important thing for me is like, if it's authentic, if I use it, if I really like it, if I enjoy it. And you will also see this throughout the content. If an influencer actually connects with the product, the way they verbalize it or post about it or talk about it, people see through that nowadays. And it will convert better. And I think it's
you're an authentic one, because you're like, I want to try it first. That's amazing. I would love to, because it's a podcast, one of the beauty things about podcasts is you can use these platforms to expand perspectives. And Sabeena brought something to my attention, that 2.8% of VC goes to female-founded businesses. And that was crazy, because we were all like shocked on the email thread. Like we were like, that's crazy. And I kind of want to use this to give you the mic to share a little bit on your experience, because you can kind of shed light on maybe the unconventional biases that occur. And what we may not even realize, because honestly, it'll expand everyone's perspective with this. And then how can we change the landscape moving forward, the investing landscape with female-founded businesses in that small percent?
Yeah, what a big problem to solve that I have 2 minutes to answer. No, so it's 2%, less than 2% of VC funding goes to women, which is wild. And the landscape is changing. So I will say, like, even when I was at M13 a few years ago, there was a specific point to invest in female-founded businesses, and there's a lot of technology too, specifically in femtech, that has come out over the years that are mostly, well, you'd be surprised actually how many femtech companies are founded by men, but femtech companies that are mostly founded by women that are getting funding. So I would say it's starting to turn a little bit, but there are what I call, something that I learned at McKinsey is called unconscious bias, and it's literally like exactly what those words mean is. It's a bias against someone that you may not even know that you have. So I think I shared this with you, Aisha, in fundraising meetings, or honestly even just like other meetings when I was at M13, I wouldn't wear my wedding ring. I would wear, or my engagement ring, I would wear maybe just like my band, which is something, it's a personal thing that I would do, but interesting to share because I didn't want the unconscious bias of, oh, she's taken care of, right? Or like she's married, so she's fine. And the people who might have had that bias, whether they had it or not, they probably didn't even know that they would have it. But it's something that I still kind of struggle with internally. So I think making people aware of things like unconscious biases, and there's a million, right? Like there's racial biases, there's gender biases, but just bringing those to people's attention, even though they're like highly uncomfortable to talk about, like I haven't ever shared that, let alone on a public platform. I think that is like step one. And then, obviously I think things like this in bringing women to the forefront, and there's something about like what you had said about not like meshing the founder with the actual brand, and a lot of like how I was taught at PepsiCo was you're the person behind the brand. You are not the brand. I was on the Lay's brand. It's a $3 billion brand. And Lay's was the brand, and I was just the human being behind it. Whereas now I think there's a lot more of a spotlight, and I think that kind of tide is changing too. So the more people feel comfortable, and even me, like I early on was like, I don't need to do interviews. I don't need to, like, the brand is Doe, not me. Kind of changing that conversation and putting yourself at the forefront of the brand actually helps other women as well. So I would say those are a couple of my thoughts. I have a million thoughts on this, but
no, I love it.
I also think men can be, and not, non-females can be really good allies, and, making sure that their men are as much feminists as women are. I think that's also like calling those biases out is also really helpful.
Have you ever called one of them out?
Oh yeah, I have
Can you share a story?
I have a sharp tongue. That's for EPLP. That's for drinks afterwards.
I love it. Well, you have to come to EPLP. I would love, so I want to, typical, we have another amazing podcast sponsor, and we're so grateful to have these women on the panel, and they have set up a really beautiful activation in the back. You guys have to all check it out after, but Clearstem, we have you guys on the panel, so I'm going to pass the mic over to you guys to do a little bit of a special that you guys have going on with Clearstem.
It's getting tangled. All right. As I mentioned before, Danielle and I, co-founders of Clearstem, anti-acne, anti-aging, and non-toxic. For everyone here, we have our product in the back so everyone can take one. So feel free to grab a product of your choice. And then also for everyone listening, you can go to our website, clearstemskincare.com, and use code GOODVIBES for 15% off.
Amazing. That's so generous. Her products, they're incredible. And you guys have so many with just, so you guys can just go get educated by these ladies and then figure out which one would be best. But I want to open up the floor to you guys to see if we have any questions for these ladies, anything at all. If anyone has a question, raise your hand. Oh, perfect.
If you were to offer advice to a startup or young entrepreneurs, I know this is a really loaded question, but what would it be?
I'll just repeat that in the mic just so we have it on the podcast. But what is your best piece of advice for a young entrepreneur or startup? Anyone?
Oh my God. Yeah, literally I was gonna say don't do it, but don't, maybe. Not great advice. So one thing that I'm still learning how to do is stoicism, and it's very difficult to not be so high with the highs and low with the lows. And so, you get the call from Whole Foods that you're getting in and you want to like be elated, or you have 2 pallets of product that have gone missing and it's the end of the fucking world. And so like you have these kind of like peaks and valleys, and they're daily. I mean, it could happen, at 8 a.m. one morning, and then at 10 a.m. like that same morning, something goes wrong. So I would say trying to maintain as much as possible that stoicism and like deal with those peaks and valleys as they come. And I think you get better at it once you go through essentially like a ton of shit. Like things stop affecting you. Like even my husband, he's like, why aren't you excited about like getting this retailer? Like why? It's because I like manage my expectations. And so I'm never as excited, but I'm also never as down. So I would say just like keeping kind of like steady throughout those highs and lows is super important.
I think also the ability to pivot, because like Sabeena said, a million things are going to go wrong at all times. And so the number one reason startups fail is because people just give up. And so knowing that you're going to always have to pivot, it might be to a new product or a new innovation or just a new tactic of doing something. But if you love it enough and you're passionate, just literally keep going no matter what.
And I'll add the most basic thing, but honestly, like pre-launch, even if you're in the idea phase, like utilize your network as much as you can. Talk to as many people as you can. You'd be surprised how many people will welcome you with open arms, who you could get intro to, what doors can open. But yeah, it's a lonely battle in the beginning, so just utilize your network to the fullest.
Anyone else have a question or someone want to add? Okay. Either one of you will both go.
So with like new, more functional or like good for you CPG brands kind of becoming like a bit of what I would say for me, like how I see is like it's all happening once, it's like becoming sort of like a fad. How do you envision like the longevity of your brands and how this space, like as it becomes more saturated, what you're going to do to like stay active and ahead of everyone else? I mean, I'm just saying, but you kind of all do similar things, but especially I would say the 3 of you over here.
I don't mind going. So I think there's a difference between a fad and a trend. So I'm going to say it's not a fad, it's a trend. A fad is like more of it's a moment in time, and then we'll kind of like cronuts. Like it was like a moment in time, and like who the fuck eats a cronut? Like pretty good. So I would say, I was at Expo East. The team was just at Expo East, which is a big national natural foods conference. There's Expo East and Expo West, and that's basically like where you see all of these trends. And a lot of the kind of press and reporting that came out of Expo East was that functional is here and it's here to stay and it's not going anywhere and it's the new norm. So I can also say, like, being on the other side, we used to call them ankle biter brands when I was at Lay's, which were the natural brands, and we called them literally ankle biters because we were like, oh, they're not going to do anything. They're just biting our ankles and stealing a little bit of share. But now those brands have gotten so big that they're being acquired, and so it's actually like where the world is moving. And to your point, big CPG brands can't keep up, and when they do try to innovate, the business models don't work, or they try direct to consumer and they don't know how. So that's all to say, where I see the world going is like continuing in better for you, good for you, functional, clean, and then as well, I mean, I think these big CPG brands are going to continue gobbling up Suckerz. So,
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
So the question is,
I didn't answer that.
Okay. The other thing I would add to that is just brand. Like, brand wins above everything. So, like, having a very clear brand ethos and mission, putting out great content, and then, like, community on top of that. It's even in a very saturated CPG market. Like, if you have great brand and you have great community, then, you'll continue to stay above it, continue to innovate. Those things are all important. But even if someone comes out with a similar product, if you have those loyal customers and you have a great brand that people trust, it is hard for other people to break through and, for them to have something that's going to make, your customers want to jump ship to someone else.
I love that. Ben, you had another question?
Yeah, so for anyone who has done any sort of like friends and family fundraising, how did you approach that conversation with them to ensure that the relationship wouldn't be affected in any way, whether obviously good or bad, whichever way the business went through those times?
I specifically didn't raise funds because Thanksgiving gets awkward if you owe someone 10 grand and you don't know when you can pay them back. And then if you take a vacation, you feel guilty. I don't know. We specifically didn't do that for that reason.
Involved,
so yeah.
Love my family, love the
my thoughts.
separation of everything.
I mean, we went to people that I think that really trust us and our expertise. Actually, we have a couple investors in the room, Jake, Sanne, Max, people. But yeah, I think you go to people who understand what you're doing, they can make an educated decision and they can separate the emotions of you as a friend versus you as a business. And also, hopefully you're trustworthy enough where you have the same credibility in what you're doing. I definitely have approached friends and family in the past who, even if they, felt like I was credible, but they didn't really understand the industry, you can get a pass from that and that's fine. You just, you know the right people to target and the people where it could be uncomfortable. And usually you don't want to take money from people where if they lose it, it would, it would really hurt them. You go to people where, it's part of their investment strategy. And, if it's meaningful to them, if you have a win, amazing, but it's not going to make them not pay the rent if you lose.
Anyone else have a question? We'll do Chase and Max, and then we'll.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but most of you, if not all of you, started your brand in the last year and a half. Some of you, well, my question to those that did, to what do you attribute your grit to starting your brand?
Ooh, through a pandemic. That's good.
Well, we launched ours before the pandemic, but I will tell you it helped in our benefit everyone wearing masks and having skin issues. So that was actually really great for us.
So
it allowed us to provide a ton of, people who had never struggled with skin issues their entire life were struggling with it for the very first time. Mm-hmm. So it gave us a huge window of opportunity for education. So I think if it's a brand that has value to drive, that's also specific towards the pandemic, that you can stand out in a really unique way.
I'll add to that. COVID was actually our wingman. We got a bunch of EIDL funding, so we didn't have to dilute. And we had a ton of free time because no one was going out and doing anything, so all we did was grind. And I think there was kind of a fuck it mentality with COVID. People were quitting their jobs left and right, figuring out what didn't work for them. They were leaving relationships. It was such a time of transition that people really for a while there, no one knew what was going to happen. People worried about their health. People were they had a reckoning with their lives, how they're spending their time. And I think that was a really big motivator and provided a lot of grit for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think our brand kind of started the whole idea during the pandemic because I started noticing when I woke up in the morning, you kind of had to set yourself up for certain routines throughout the day. And I started noticing, hey, making this morning matcha almost sets me up for a good day of a chain of good intentions. Also, we're kind of lucky that you're making matcha at home. So for people, this was really beneficial. But I think what was really important for us to look at was kind of what is happening into the world. And, through all the transitions, through all the panic, we did all get a wake-up call that we do need to care about our health. And I think it's really amazing how a lot of, new brands, right here, all pivoted and started and be hey, let's make healthy alternatives and things like that. So to come back also to a good quality of a brand is able to pivot and see kind of what the market needs and kind of use that in your benefit. And definitely even the pandemic has made things difficult in supply and things like that, but at the end, like, you will figure it out. Like, your boxes may come a little later. Your stickers might arrive from wherever, but it will come together as long you're on top of it and, like, working harder and have patience and, yeah, just grind through it.
Love that. And Max, you had a question?
So, to be what you're saying earlier about, larger brands, established brands, and gobbling up smaller brands, I've seen a couple times with some podcasts where founders are super dedicated to their product, they get gobbled up by a bigger brand and they have to exit, and then all of a sudden, they get pushed out, and then the product quality drops, and everyone here is building a brand around something that they believe in, that their heart is in. So, as you scale it, everyone out there, what are your plans? Like, how are you going to prevent that from happening? Are you that closely tied to what you're building so that, like, in the future, when someone else does come in, buy and acquire you, what would you do to prevent that from ever happening? Or do you just want to build a whole world around it, and it's risk for everyone?
I feel like Jake would be a great a great example of that. No, you have to, if what I would imagine, I haven't sold or exited a business yet, but what I would imagine is you have to be able to relinquish that control and, like, pass the baby along. And it does happen where, like, I'll say, like, RX bar is an interesting example of, I'm not an RX bar consumer, but from what I hear, it's like the quality did change or the ingredients did change, or there are brands that, like, the big companies will add preservatives because it extends the shelf life, or whatever that is. I think there's also got to be, like, a little bit of self-awareness of, you can take, and this is just me, but, like, I can take the brand to a certain size, and then when it's big enough or too big for me, I also shouldn't be the one running that business anymore. Like, if I can get it to 50, 80 million, or whatever it is, there will be a certain point in time where, and I don't know if it's like you wake up one day, but, like, there will be a point in time where there's a better, like, 20-year executive likely to run that business. And I say that because I hate process. And I think when I'm a 0 to 1 kind of person. And when it gets to a certain size, it's all process. So I think you have to have that self-awareness too of, like, okay, it's time to kind of, like, pass it along if your goal is to get acquired. Now, there are a lot of examples of founders like the Jeff Bezos of the world, right? Like, running their business from when it was in a garage selling books to what Amazon is today. But I would say that's more rare. There's more what I would call, like, period founders, where they, are better at running a business, or CEOs better at running a business at certain points in time, if that makes sense.
Anyone else want to answer? Perfect. Any other questions before we wrap up? Anything else? Beautiful. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Seriously, it means the world to have each and every one of you here. And we have a lot of very special people here. And on Monday, season 3 of the podcast drops. Coffee and a Good Vibe. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe to Coffee and a Good Vibe on all podcasting platforms, on Spotify, Apple. And I'm just going to put some of you on blast to give me a wave, because we have past guests who've been on the podcast. We have future podcast guests on here. So Jake, give us a wave. Jake Casson, his episode comes out Monday and it's incredible. So make sure 5 a.m. it's going to drop. Also, we have Nadia Mejia and Sam Webb. We also have Chase Tuning over here. The whole Nekohama team, where are you guys? So you guys can, like, literally just hear a full-on podcast with them. Tiana's been on the podcast. Their episode's coming. There's just a lot of incredible people in this room. And my whole point of saying this is I hope that you guys stick around, enjoy the brand activations, go get an IV from Same Day, have all the snacks here, have it all, and connect with someone new. That, like, if you just meet someone new here, then it's great. I'm happy. We're all happy. And everyone here is incredible. Everyone here is so heart-centered and nice. I always say your vibe attracts your tribe. And I know in this room, you guys may not all know each other, but I know each and every one of you, and you're all incredible. So please just connect and stay here for the next hour whenever you're happy and content. And then we also have something at EPLP if you are able to start work later tomorrow and you want to come out. If you guys want to come out to EPLP, we have a whole part of the rooftop reserved for us. And if you guys just say coffee and a good vibe at the door, you'll be fine. And you can tell your friends to come. I know the timing of this was kind of weird. So some people are coming there later, so there'll be new people to connect with. But you guys are all welcome there to come out after. So yes, I will let you guys enjoy the evening, and thank you guys again.